On the morning of January 6, 1978, Iranians opened the Etalat newspaper and found a scathing article insulting an exiled cleric named Ayatollah Khomeini. The response was immediate. Spontaneous riots erupted in the streets, and the state's secret police, known as Savak, fired into the crowds, killing dozens of civilians. Those gunshots triggered an unstoppable chain reaction. Just 14 months later, the nation's monarch had fled the country, and a 2,500-year-old royal dynasty completely collapsed. A single newspaper article does not destroy an empire on its own. The printing of that insult was simply a spark, landing directly in a powder keg that had been filling with explosive tension for centuries. 2.5 millennia ago, ancient Persia was a global superpower. Under leaders like Cyrus the Great, the region was largely unified by Zoroastrianism, one of the world's oldest monotheistic faiths. That order was shattered in the 7th century when Arab armies pushed out, conquering Persia and enforcing strict Islamic laws. Facing religious persecution, thousands of Zoroastris fled. They boarded ships, sailing across the sea to seek refuge on the coast of Gujarat, India. The local rulers granted them asylum on the condition that they adopt regional customs. They became known as the Parsi community. Over the centuries, their descendants, including visionary founders like Jamsetji Tata, helped construct India's modern industrial economy. The exodus created a permanent historical split. While the exiled community built a peaceful economic engine in India, the homeland they abandoned slowly transitioned into a Shia Islamic state. By the early 20th century, explorers had discovered massive oil reserves beneath Iranian soil. British and American corporations quickly moved in, building sprawling refineries and taking tight control over the region's economy. In 1951, a popular prime minister named Mohammad Mossadegh decided this wealth belonged to the Iranian public. He passed legislation to fully nationalize the country's oil industry. The West retaliated immediately. In 1953, the CIA and British intelligence orchestrated a military coup, forcibly removing Mossadegh from office. In his place, they installed Mohammad Reza Pahlavi as an autocratic monarch, ensuring that cheap oil would continue flowing to Western markets without interruption. Overthrowing a democratically elected leader to install a foreign-backed autocrat deeply fractured the public's trust in Western powers. The second layer of the powder keg was packed tight. The new Shah launched an aggressive, forced modernization campaign to align Iran with the West. He mandated secular education and even banned women from wearing traditional hijabs in public. When citizens pushed back against these sweeping changes, the Shah relied heavily on Savak, his secret police force, to brutally crush any political or religious dissent. The public breaking point arrived in 1971. While ordinary Iranians struggled with severe poverty, the Shah threw a massive celebration at the ruins of Persepolis to mark 2,500 years of the monarchy. It remains one of the most expensive private parties in human history. This staggering display of wealth disgusted the nation's religious clerics. From exile, a powerful scholar named Ayatollah Khomeini began smuggling recorded sermons into Iran, organizing a fierce resistance against the monarchy. By violently suppressing Iran's Islamic traditions while simultaneously flaunting extreme, insulated wealth, the Shah managed to unite both the impoverished working class and the strict religious establishment against him. The powder keg was now full, which brings us back to that January 1978 newspaper. When the state media published their hit piece on Khomeini, it landed in a society entirely primed for war. The streets erupted. When the military eventually refused to fire on the protesters, the Shah panicked and fled the country. Khomeini returned from a 14-year exile to millions of cheering supporters. But the citizens who fought to overthrow a king found a very different system waiting for them. Through a national referendum, Khomeini established Vilayat-e-Faqih, a strict Islamic republic where total political power was consolidated into the hands of religious clerics. Civil liberties were rapidly dismantled. The hijab, which the Shah had previously banned by force, was now legally mandated by force. The Iranian people had successfully removed a secular, Western-backed dictator only to replace him with an uncompromising religious theocracy. This sudden shift redrew the geopolitical map overnight.
Later that year, revolutionary students stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran.
taking 52 Americans hostage and severing ties with the West. Khomeini's revolution was built on an explicit rejection of Western influence, a stance that directly drives the intense military standoffs and drone strikes we see between Iran, Israel, and the United States today. Looking at the sweeping history of this region reveals a sobering reality. A land that once pioneered religious tolerance under ancient empires was repeatedly forced to extremes by foreign interference and absolute rulers. The descendants of ancient Persia now live in two distinct realities: a prosperous Parsi diaspora thriving in peace across India, and a nation in Tehran still fighting over its soul.